Making a frame saw. Is it worth bothering? Well, stay tuned and you decide. Stay tuned, I'll show you more. Hello. A couple of years ago, I made a frame saw. I was starting to see these have a kind of a revival on YouTube and the internet, and tool makers, small boutique tool makers were starting to sell them and sell the blades, and I hadn't used one since I was a boy. My dad had one, and it was even much cruder than this homemade one. And it was typically for us a yard tool. And he also had the tubular steel type that we use strictly as pruning and yard tools. And a couple of years ago, I began thinking about making one, and this was the prototype. And I've hesitated in showing it, hesitated in doing a video on it, because I never did go on and refine the shaping and the contours. It was put together real quick based on stumbling onto some blades. I thought I would test it out and see, is this a saw that I might want to use in the shop for woodworking? And I made this in 2014, and since then other good videos have come out. Paul Sellers has a wonderful video on making a frame saw, and he has a curved joint here that's a very intelligent joint, and other refinements to the tool. And I don't think I could improve on that video. I may try to do a video in which I would title it Making the Paul Sellers Frame Saw. And you'll sometimes hear them called bow saws or buck saws. And it's a European saw. Now, my go-to saws that I talk about for low-cost saws, the Vaughan is just, for my money, the Vaughan is a fantastic saw. Compact, ripping blade, cross-cutting blade, efficient, clean cuts, straight cutting, replaceable blades, you know, under $28 saw, under $30 saw. So this is kind of my benchmark saw in the shop for a low-cost saw. Then I even advocate as much or more buying the Cobalt back saw, which still has the old-fashioned carbon steel blade that you can sharpen and file yourself, set the teeth yourself, which I do, and I have videos on that, cutting test with it, sharpening videos. And this is my other little benchmark saw, since I do not own any high-dollar back saws or tenon saws. And I use this as a tenon and joinery saw. The other saw that I go to a lot in my shop is I'm a big fan of the Sandvik hand saws. This is an 8-point. I also own a 10-point. This is filed more for a rip cut pattern. I love this for a traditional Western style hand saw for chunking down lumber. I cut up plywood with it. I don't do joinery with it, I think, obviously, but it's a great cutting saw. So I thought, if I were to compare this frame saw or buck saw, what would I compare it against? So these are the saws that I would compare it against. Now the blades are, the whole thing came about kind of by accident because I stumbled onto a pack of blades in a whatnot shop down in Pigeon Forge in Tennessee. They have tool stores that have both brand name tools and kind of a hodgepodge of novelty items, and you never know really what you're going to find. And there's Chinese goods in there and Taiwanese goods in there. And I stumbled onto a pack of blades. The part of the packaging is gone, but they were made in Taiwan, and they were called 22-inch hacksaw blades. And they're carbon steel. They can be sharpened. Cheap blades. I think this whole pack for a 5-pack was 12 bucks or 10 bucks. It was ridiculous. So I bought it and I thought, hey, there's my frame saw blade, because I was about to order one from Highland or Traditional Woodworker or one of those stores, and I probably really wanted to know how it would cut before I ordered the saw blade, and it was kind of which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Well, I stumbled onto these blades, bought them, and I thought, oh, there's my prototype blade, and if a cheap junky blade like this could work with me filing it, that would prompt me to go on and do a real version of this with a quality blade in it. So I'm going to shut down and do my standard cut test. 1-inch thick oak. I've got a mark at 1 inch and 2 inch. I got some straight up and down lines on the back that help me. Square lines here that help me. And that also gives me an idea, will the saw stay on track. So I'll shut down and refocus, and I'll show you a few cuts. Okay, we'll start off with my other benchmark saws. Now, my big old Sandvik, I just did a cut here. I count the strokes. I'll do another one. It should be about 8 to 10 strokes to go 2 inches down. Starts easy. It's got a lot of aggressive cut to it, a lot of power in this saw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets me to 1 inch. 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 strokes to go 2 inches deep in 1 inch thick oak. Perfectly straight cut. Fat curve, but minimal tear out. It's a good cut. Now we'll do the Vaughn with the ripping teeth. I know it's going to cut well. This has been used a bit, but it's still in good shape. Start the saw. 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost got 1 inch. Maybe 4.5. 5, 6, 7. I'm a little off line, but that was probably me. I didn't start good. But 7 strokes gets me 2 inches deep. Let's do another one. Start the saw. 1, 2, 3, 4 gets me to 1 inch. 5, 6, 7, 8 cuts, 8 strokes. Again, I didn't stay on line as good as I should have, and these are thin curve, thin blades. Sometimes they do stray. Here's my back saw that I sharpened myself, a cheap one from Lowe's, Cobalt. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 gets me to 1 inch on the back side here. Probably 5 would be a complete 1 inch. 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.5 gets me 2 inches deep, clean curve, minimal tear out. Now the frame saw with a thin, flimsy blade. It's pretty tight. Could be tighter maybe, but I'm using it on the push stroke. You could go either way, I think, but right now I'll use it on the push stroke. Start the saw. 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 5 gets me 1 inch deep. 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.5, 9.5 got me 2 inches deep. I was able to stay on track pretty good. Let's try another one. 1, that's a starter cut. All saws need that, but we'll count now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 or so get me to 1 inch. 5, 6, 7, 8 easily gets me 2 inches deep. Minimal tear out and pretty darn straight. Let's try the Vaughn again, see if I can do a little better cut. I'll try a different Vaughn. I have another one hanging here. A newer one. This one's a little newer. Isn't so beat up. Shorter cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gets me 1 inch deep. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That stayed really good on track. That's because it's newer saw and isn't so beat up. This saw has done a ton of work, so it may be on its way out. It's one of the oldest ones I have in the shop. So that gives you an idea. Let's try pine, which I seldom show in my videos as a cutting test. I'll throw a piece of 3/4 inch thick pine. Pine we know is easy, but we'll throw a piece in and try it. 2 inches deep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost got me there. 4 got me to 2 inches. Good straight cut with the Vaughn. Newer Vaughn. Try my back saw, tenon saw. Start. 1, 2, 3, 4. I couldn't stop. Got me below 2 inches. About 2 1/4, 2 3/8. Just a wicked aggressive cut with this cobalt. Try another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Easily gets me 2 inches deep. Straight cut, clean, almost no tear out on a ripping cut. Now we'll try the frame saw in pine, and I suspect it's going to be wickedly fast. Starter cut. 1, 2, 3 gets me 2 inches deep, but a little curvature. See if I can do a little better. 1, 2, 3, 4. The lighter touch gets me straighter. Let's try one more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Straighter yet. So it's not always about speed, it's about accuracy. In fact, it's more about accuracy and control and finesse and cleanliness of cut than it is speed, in my opinion. But it doesn't hurt if the saw is also a wicked cutter. Try another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Could be straighter. Let's try tightening one more turn on the saw. Pretty darn high tension there, but still some flex. 1, 2, 3, 3.5. So it is a wicked fast cutter, wicked fast ripper. Let's try one other test as a cross cut. I'll put a piece of oak back in, try a few cross cuts. I normally go 1 inch deep, so we'll try something here. 1, 2, 3. That almost got me 1 inch. Certainly 4 gets me beyond 1 inch. Little bit of tear out, nothing too bad. Try another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 good swipes easily gets me 1 inch. So what does that say? Well, it's pretty unscientific, but what it tells me is that these saws can be wickedly good fast cutters, even with a cheap Taiwan blade. If I bought a good blade, a wider blade, if I would have a 1 inch blade or wider, it would even be more accurate. A good cutter. This blade has about 12 teeth to the inch. I didn't count it. you can get various blades for replacement blades. You'd want to make the saw to fit the blade. These are 22-inch. Your blade might be different if you order one. One thing about this saw that can be pointed out is that if I had a curving cut, if I was doing some type of a cut where I was curving off of a piece, let me show you what you can do with this saw because of the ability to twist and bend that blade and twist and bend the saw. You go down, follow the line, begin to turn. Very little effort. Turn the blade and follow that curve. And probably that may be nearing the limit of what this radius that this saw could turn with that size of a blade. You could take a bandsaw blade and break it in half, as Paul Sellers shows, anneal the end so you can drill a hole in it and make any length of blade you want. And you could use any width of blade then and do even tighter curves, so you'd in effect have a gigantic coping saw. But that's pretty impressive that it can turn that curve like that. It was really pretty effortless, and it was really pretty easy to stay on track. So there's a few thoughts about why I would go on and probably make one of these, why you may want to make one too. Thanks for watching.